Hello, my friends. I am so glad you are here with me today. Pull up a chair and get comfortable. Today, I want to tell you a story. It is a story about something you are touching right now. It is the story of your clothes. Have you ever stopped to wonder, why do we wear clothes? It seems like a simple question, doesn't it? We wear them to stay warm. We wear them because it is what people do. But the story is much deeper than that. It is a story about being human. Thousands and thousands of years ago, the world was a very different place. Our ancestors lived outside. They felt the biting wind and the burning sun. At first, they did not have shirts or pants. They only had their skin. But then, they had a brilliant idea. They looked at the animals around them. They saw how the animals stayed warm with fur. Imagine a cold night in the Ice Age. A group of humans sits around a fire. They are shivering. One of them picks up the skin of a large deer. They wrap it around their shoulders. Suddenly, the world feels a little softer. The wind does not hurt as much. This was the first thread in our story. But clothes were not just for protection. Even in the very beginning, clothes were about magic and meaning. A hunter might wear the teeth of a lion. Why? To show he was brave. A leader might wear a special bird feather. Why? To show she was important. From the very start, clothes told a story. They told the world who we were. They told the world what we believed in. Can you imagine that? Even before we had cities or books, we had fashion. We had the desire to look at ourselves and say, I am special. Think about your favorite shirt for a moment. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel strong? Does it make you feel beautiful? This feeling is ancient. It is a feeling that connects you to those first humans by the fire. We cover our bodies, but we also express our souls. And so, the journey begins. As time moved forward, humans stopped moving around so much. They began to build great cities near big rivers. They began to grow plants and keep animals. This changed everything, especially our clothes. Let's go back in time. Imagine the bright, hot sun of ancient Egypt. Can you see the blue water of the Nile? The people there were very smart. They found a plant called flax. They turned this plant into a beautiful, light fabric called linen. In Egypt, the clothes were simple but elegant. Most people wore white. Why white? Because it reflected the hot sun. Men wore simple skirts. Women wore long, straight dresses. But my friends, even then, people loved to decorate. They wore heavy gold necklaces and bright blue stones. Now imagine the streets of ancient Rome. Here, clothes were like a giant sign. They told everyone your social rank. Have you heard of the toga? It was a long piece of wool wrapped around the body, but not everyone could wear one. Only citizens could wear the toga. If you were a leader, your toga had a purple stripe. Purple was the most expensive color in the world. In Greece and Rome, clothes were not cut and sewn like our shirts today. They were draped. They used big pieces of fabric and held them together with pins. It was a very free way to dress. The fabric moved with the wind. It showed the shape of the human body. Think about that for a moment. In these ancient times, a simple piece of cloth could show if you were a king or a worker. It could show if you were from a city or a farm. Do you like to wear jewelry, or perhaps a colorful belt? People in the ancient world loved these things too. They used what they had, gold, shells, and bright dyes, to make themselves look dignified. They wanted to show that they were part of a great civilization. They wanted to show they had dignity. And even today, when we dress up for a special day, we are doing the same thing. The world began to change again. The great empires grew quiet, and the Middle Ages began. The weather in Europe became colder. Life became a bit harder. Because of this, clothes became heavier and more complex. In the Middle Ages, wool was king. Most people wore clothes made from the hair of sheep. Imagine wearing a heavy wool tunic over a linen shirt. You would wear many layers to stay warm in the stone castles and wooden huts. But here is something very interesting, my friends. In the Middle Ages, there were actually laws about what you could wear. These were called sumptuary laws. Can you imagine that? The government told you which colors you could use. If you were a poor farmer, you wore brown or gray. These were the colors of the earth. But if you were a rich noble, you could wear bright red or deep blue. These colors were very expensive to make. The kings and queens wanted to make sure that everyone knew who was rich and who was poor. Clothes in this time were very modest. Men and women covered most of their bodies. Women often wore veils or hats to cover their hair. It was a time of great faith and tradition. But even in the mud and the cold, people found ways to be creative. They began to use buttons. Before this, people used pins or strings. But buttons changed how clothes fit. Clothes could now be tighter and more stylish. Tailors became very important. A tailor was a person who made clothes fit your body perfectly. Have you ever felt that some clothes are too fancy for you? Or maybe you felt someone was showing off with their expensive shoes? This idea started long ago. In the Middle Ages, clothes were a wall between the classes. They were a way to keep people in their places. But beneath the heavy wool and the strict laws, the human heart still wanted to be beautiful. People embroidered small flowers on their collars. They wore colorful ribbons. Even in a world of rules, fashion found a way to breathe. Now, my friends, let us step into a world of color and light. The Renaissance. This was a time when art, science, and beauty exploded. And, as you can imagine, clothes became art themselves. Think about the most beautiful fabric you have ever touched. Was it soft silk? Was it shiny velvet? During the Renaissance, trade brought these amazing materials to Europe. Clothes became very big and very detailed. Men wore puffed sleeves and short jackets called doublets. Women wore giant dresses with wide skirts. Sometimes the dresses were so wide that women could not walk through doors easily. Can you imagine that? Wearing a dress so large that you had to turn sideways to enter a room. This was also the time when fashion, as we know it, really began. In the past, styles stayed the same for hundreds of years. But in the Renaissance, styles began to change more quickly. People wanted the new look. Royalty became the first fashion influencers. If the King of France wore a new kind of hat, everyone in the palace wanted that hat. If the Queen of England wore a high collar with lace, every noblewoman wanted lace. Global exploration also changed what we wore. Sailors brought back new dyes. They brought back ideas from different cultures. We began to see a mix of styles. Clothes were no longer just about staying warm. They were about showing your power, your travel, and your taste. But there was a catch. These beautiful clothes took a very long time to make. Everything was sewn by hand. One dress could take months of work. This meant that only the very wealthy could enjoy fashion. The average person still wore simple, plain clothes. Have you ever looked at a painting of a king or queen? Look at the lace. Look at the gold threads. Every tiny detail was made by a person's hands. It shows us how much we valued beauty. We were willing to spend months making one single garment. Why? Because clothes had become a way to dream. The story of clothes takes a very big turn now. For thousands of years, every shirt and every pair of pants was made by hand. But then came the 1700s and 1800s. This was the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, there were machines. Big, loud, powerful machines. These machines could spin thread much faster than a human. They could weave fabric in minutes instead of days. Imagine a small village where everyone wears clothes made by their mothers. Then, a factory opens nearby. Suddenly, the local shop has hundreds of shirts, and they are cheap. This was a miracle for many people. The invention of the sewing machine was a total game changer. Think about your sewing machine at home. Before that machine, every stitch was done with a needle and thread by a person sitting in a chair. The sewing machine made it possible to make clothes in huge numbers. This is what we call mass production. Because of factories, clothes became standard. This means they started making sizes like small, medium, and large. Before this, clothes were made to fit one specific person. Now, a person in London and New York could wear the exact same shirt. This change made life better for many people. For the first time in history, regular workers could afford more than 2 outfits. They could have a Sunday best outfit and clothes for work. They could follow fashion too. But, my friends, there was a dark side to this progress. The factories were often dirty and dangerous. Many people, including children, worked long hours for very little money to make these clothes. This is a part of the story we must remember. The Industrial Revolution brought clothes to everyone. It made the world more equal in what we wore. But it also changed our relationship with clothes. We stopped seeing them as something precious that took months to make. We started seeing them as something we could just buy at a store. Have you ever gone shopping and felt excited by all the choices? We have that feeling because of the machines and the factories. We are the children of the Industrial Revolution. We have reached the 1900s. This century was like a high-speed train for fashion. Every 10 years, the look of the world changed. At the beginning of the century, women still wore long dresses and tight corsets. A corset was a very tight undergarment that made the waist look small, but it was very hard to breathe in. But then World War I happened. Men went to fight and women went to work. They needed clothes they could move in. In the 1920s, the flappers arrived. These young women cut their hair short and wore shorter dresses. They wanted to dance. They wanted to be free. Can you imagine the shock of the older generation? It was a revolution of fabric. Then came World War II. Fabric was scarce. People had to make do and mend. They fixed their old clothes instead of buying new ones. But after the war, in the 1950s, people wanted luxury again. This was the time of the new look, big, beautiful skirts and very feminine styles. But my friends, the biggest change happened in the 1960s. This was the birth of youth culture. Before this, teenagers dressed just like their parents. But in the 60s, young people wanted their own look. They wore miniskirts, bright colors, and wild patterns. They wanted to change the world. And we cannot forget blue jeans. Jeans started as work pants for miners and cowboys. They were tough and strong. But in the 1950s and 60s, they became a symbol of being cool and rebellious. Today, almost everyone in the world owns a pair of jeans. Think about that. A simple pair of blue pants connected the whole world. In the 20th century, fashion became a way to protest. It became a way to show what music you liked. It became a way to show you were part of a group. Do you remember a style from when you were younger? That style told a story about that time in your life. The 20th century taught us that clothes are about the now. They are about our voice in the world. Today, we live in a world where everything is connected. This is called globalization, and fashion is one of the best examples of this. Think about the clothes you are wearing right now. Where were they made? Perhaps the cotton was grown in India. The fabric was woven in China. The shirt was designed in Italy, and it was sewn in Vietnam. Finally, you bought it in a store in the United States. Our clothes travel more than we do. We are wearing the work of the whole world. In the past, people in different countries looked very different. You could tell where someone was from just by their hat or their coat. Today, people often look very similar. Everyone wears t-shirts, sneakers, and jeans. This is what we call ready-to-wear fashion. It makes us feel like we are all part of one big human family. But globalization also means we share ideas. Designers in Europe are inspired by the beautiful patterns of Africa. Designers in America look at the traditional styles of Japan. We are mixing our cultural threads to create something new. Have you ever tried on a garment from another country? When we wear clothes from another culture, we are learning about them. We are showing respect for their beauty. However, we must also be careful. It is important to remember the history of these styles. We should not just copy them. We should appreciate the people who created them. Today, fashion has no borders. A trend can start on the internet in the morning and be popular by the evening. We are more connected than ever before. Can you imagine what those first humans would think? They used the skin of one deer. Today, we use materials from every continent. We are truly wearing the world. But my friends, our story has reached a difficult chapter. Because clothes are so cheap and easy to buy, we have a new problem. It is called fast fashion. Fast fashion is when stores bring in new styles every single week. The clothes are very cheap. You buy a shirt for the price of a cup of coffee. You wear it 2 times, and then you throw it away. Have you ever seen a mountain of old clothes? It is a sad sight. Every year, millions of tons end up in the trash. Making clothes uses a lot of water and chemicals, and when we throw them away, they don't disappear. Also, we must think about the people who make these cheap clothes. Often, they work in very poor conditions. They do not get paid enough to take care of their families. But do not worry, my friends. There is hope. A new movement is growing. It is called sustainable fashion. People are saying, I want to buy less, but buy better. They are looking for clothes made from organic materials. They are buying second-hand or vintage clothes. Have you ever gone thrifting? It is like a treasure hunt. You find unique clothes that have a history. Many people are also learning to slow down. They are learning to fix their own clothes again. Instead of throwing away a shirt with a missing button, they sew a new one on. They are treating their clothes with respect. Think about this. What if we stopped asking, is this cheap? And started asking, who made this? We have the power to change the story. Every time you buy a shirt, you are making a choice. You are choosing what kind of world you want to live in. We can choose a world that is clean and fair. What can you do today? Maybe you can fix that old pair of jeans, or maybe you can give your old clothes to someone who needs them. Every small step helps our planet breathe a little easier. We have traveled a long way, haven't we? From animal skins to digital shopping. So, what is next in our story? The future of clothes is very exciting. Imagine a shirt that can change its color with your mood, or a jacket that can charge your phone while you walk. This is not science fiction. Scientists are working on smart textiles right now. We might see clothes made from amazing new materials. Scientists are making fabric from mushrooms, from pineapple leaves, and even from recycled plastic. We are learning to create beauty without hurting nature. Another big trend is personalization. In the future, a machine will scan your body. Then, a 3D printer will make a shirt that fits you perfectly. No more small or large, just you size. But even with all this technology, the heart of the story will stay the same. Because clothes will always be about how we feel. Think about the first time you wore a suit or a beautiful dress. Think about the soft pajamas you wear when you are tired. Clothes are like a second skin. They protect us, but they also comfort us. They are a way to tell the world, "This is me." My friends, as we finish our story today, look at your sleeve. Look at the fabric. Think about the thousands of years of history. Think about the farmers, the weavers, the tailors, and the dreamers. The story of clothes is the story of human creativity. It is the story of our desire to be better, to be more beautiful, and to be connected. No matter what the future brings, we will always use clothes to tell our story. We will always use them to express our love and our hope. Thank you for walking through history with me today. I hope that the next time you get dressed, you feel a little bit of the magic. Remember, you are not just wearing fabric, you are wearing a masterpiece of human history. Stay warm, stay beautiful, and most importantly, stay yourself.